I told her I wouldn't drink that night. The words slipped out effortlessly, like promises often do when you want calm more than truth. Just one drink after work. I said, tie my shoes. I'll be home early. She didn't argue. She just gave me that quiet look. Not angry, but already disappointed. I should have read it for what it was. A warning, not permission. Nights like that never begin with bad intentions. You tell yourself it's just a few beers with the guys, laughter in a dim bar that makes everyone look younger. Then someone orders shots, someone reminisces about old times, and before you notice, time blurs. I remember little after midnight, just fragments. The scent of whiskey, a song I once loved, a stranger's hand brushing my arm. When I finally stumbled home, streetlights had begun to pale. My keys fumbled twice before the lock caught. The stove clock read 5:03 a.m. My shirt was untucked, my jacket missing, belt half undone. Sarah sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like armor. Her eyes didn't register surprise, just exhaustion. "So," she said softly, "you didn't drink?" Her voice wasn't sharp. It was worse. It was calm. I almost wished she had yelled. I started, but the lie got stuck in my throat. No saving it. I reeked to the bar floor. She looked at me like people gaze at something once cherished that's now unrecognizable. "You said you would," she whispered. Those words hit harder than any argument we'd ever had. Not for what she said, but for the certainty in her tone. I wanted to tell her it was meaningless, just stress or the guys, or that I lost track of time. But the truth was simpler. I had been losing myself for months. The distance between us didn't start that night. It had been creeping quietly, like fog, until everything felt different. She used to wait for me by the window. Now she stayed in another room. I used to come home early just to see her smile. Now I found excuses to stay out. And perhaps she had built her own walls, the long silences, the way she'd move her phone when I entered the room, the strange small talk over dinner. We were both drifting, pretending our marriage was fine, because neither of us want to confront the wreck beneath the surface. That night simply made the invisible visible. She rose, blanket dropping to the floor. "I washed your work clothes," she said quietly. It was such an ordinary thing to say in such a fractured moment that I nearly laughed. But then she moved past me slowly, deliberately, and closed the bedroom door without another word. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by silence, so thick it felt alive. The scent of detergent mingled with alcohol and guilt. I splashed water on my face in the bathroom and stared at the man in the mirror, bloodshot eyes, stained collar, hollow face. That wasn't the man she married. That wasn't who I wanted to be. For a long time, I just stood there, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of clock, the quiet sound of something breaking inside me. Morning light crept through the blinds, soft and indifferent. Outside, birds chirped, unaware a marriage was collapsing next door. I wanted to knock on her door, to say something that could undo the damage. But every word sounded like an excuse, and she had already heard them all. So I sat on the couch, waiting for the courage to apologize, truly apologize for the first time. When she finally emerged, the sun was already high. I had been sitting for hours, TV muted, replaying every mistake in my mind like a film I couldn't pause. She didn't look at me at once. She poured herself coffee and stood by the counter, calm, steady, untouchable. I wanted her to yell, to cry, to say anything human, but silence is worse than anger. It means they've stopped trying. I don't know what to say. I began. I messed up. I know I did. She set her cup down gently. "You always know," she said. "You always mess up, and you always know. But it never changes anything, does it?" No cruelty in her voice, just weariness. That's what hurt most. She wasn't fighting anymore. "I didn't cheat," I said softly. "Nothing happened." "I don't even care if you did," she replied. Then I understood how far gone we were. Love doesn't vanish in a moment. It erodes slowly until only indifference remains. She picked up her keys. "I'm going to my sister's for a few days." "Sarah, don't," I said sharply. "Don't ask me to stay so you can feel better about what you did," she said. I wanted to stop her, to promise change. But how many times had I done that before? Words without proof are just noise, and she had grown tired of hearing it. The door closed softly. For the first time in years, the house felt too large, too silent. I stared at the dent her coffee cup left on the counter, realizing something so small could hurt so deeply. The next days blurred. Work, sleep, repeat. I didn't drink, not from strength, but because even thinking of it made me sick. The guys texted. I ignored them. The bars no longer felt like escape. They were reminders. On the third day, I found myself scrolling through old photos, us at the lake, painting the guest room, laughing at some forgotten joke. I remembered when I couldn't imagine life without her. Somewhere along the way, I started acting like I already could. That night, I wrote her a letter. Not a text, not an email, a letter. It wasn't an apology. It was a confession. I wrote about the loneliness I masked with jokes, the way I use alcohol as excuse instead of reason. I told her I missed not just her, but the version of myself I was when we were okay. I didn't send it. I folded it carefully and left it on the table. A week later, she returned. I heard her key in the lock, quiet and hesitant. She didn't speak, just saw the letter, unfolded it, read. I sat across the room, watching her expression shift between sadness and something gentler. You actually wrote this? She asked. I did. And you didn't drink? She nodded slowly. Good. She didn't say she forgave me. She didn't say she was staying. But she sat down. That was enough. We talked. Truly talked. For the first time in months. No accusations. No defenses. Just honesty. I told her I didn't expect trust to return immediately. I just wanted a chance to earn it back. When she left that night to return to her sisters, she said, "We'll see." Not a promise. Not closure. Just a possibility. And maybe that's all I deserved. I still don't drink. Not because she asked, but because I remember seeing her face that morning, the quiet hurt that lingers. People think breaking a heart is the worst thing. It isn't. The worst is proving they'll never believe you'll stop. Now, when I pass the bar on 7th Street, I keep walking. Not from guilt, but gratitude. Sometimes losing almost everything is the only way to remember what matters. And maybe one day, if I'm lucky, she'll look at me again the way she used to, before I let promises turn into noise. Until then, I keep choosing to mean the words I say.